I heard someone had a question here.
Oh, I kind of had a silly one. Oh, you're going to have me do
It's up to you.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
This is...
No, no.
Sorry, I probably broke it.
This is how Muslims treat their guests.
Okay, this is probably a really silly question, but this information, is a lot of it from the
Quran?
Quran, or is it this is just research?
Research.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, most of it actually is through, like I heavily dependent on primary sources. I'll let you, because this is just like the handout for the first lecture, but we'll keep like adding the handouts for all the lectures, and then at the end we'll have the references. At the end of, inshallah, fourth week, we'll have all of it. But I depended heavily on like historical books, historical facts, and pretty much like I try to investigate it from the perspective of a non-Muslim, actually, like a Jewish person. So this is why like I investigated that part of history through like in their shoes. Like I was trying to put myself in their shoes. And actually this is an important point, because I think you noticed when we were talking about the Jewish plight and what happened to them, I was mentioning, for example, that Moses, peace be upon him, when he won over the Pharaoh is Egyptian. I am Egyptian, but I wrote it for Moses because we believe that this was the truth. Moses was the righteous person, and he was advocating for the oppressed people, and also like from a religious perspective, he was the one calling for the worship of the only one true God. So we are with Moses at that point, and this is why like we call ourselves as Muslims. I know that this is like very subjective, but I mean like this is why we call ourselves as Muslims, as the followers of the prophets. We have many verses in the Quran that say, "La nufarriqu bayna ahadin minhum." We do not differentiate between any of the messengers in terms of the message itself. So we believe that all the messengers, they came with one message. And this is why like when we say that we believe in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our Prophet, if we truly believe in him, then we believe in all the prophets. And so this is for us like why it's like when we talk about whatever, for example, this man Titus did to the Jews, I will be taking the side of that Jews, of the people at that time, not I will not be supporting Titus because he was a tyrant and he killed like thousands of people in a single day. So that was a point that I wanted to stress. Thank you for that question. And I'm not sure if somebody else has a question, or I could say a few things about. But if you have a question, go ahead.
What do you think?
It's turned off. Okay.
What do you think is a really distilled down version of all that information when you're talking to people and sort of trying to have these conversations with folks that are uneducated about the history, or maybe were taught something else growing up? Like, what do you think are the really maybe top 3 most important points to get across that is really digestible to someone that's not familiar with all of this history?
It's a good question. I think I need to think about it for a moment, but at the top of my head, I would say the first thing is that we have to get our historical facts right. And this is why I even sort of narrated the historical part from Noah for a reason. I want people to get the context. And I try to combine all at least the agreed upon facts between all the major religions, because for us like Palestine and what's going on, it matters to all the 3 faiths, to Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So I try to tackle it from the agreed upon points. But to answer your question, I think that the main point is that we have to get our historical facts right. And as I said, the land belonged to Canaan, or Canaan. It was their land, and it's still to this day, if you read the Old Testament, it will say the land of Canaan. So that's the first thing. And if we're using that card, like who got there first, if we're using that card, then it belongs to Canaan and his descendants, if we're using that card. Actually, we shouldn't use that. Like I'm just like using this as a type of argument. But my point is, and Jerusalem, actually, this is a very interesting point. Jerusalem means city of peace in Hebrew, city of peace. So Jerusalem actually was built to accommodate all different faiths. And it was the case under Muslim rulers. It was the very case, like Jewish people were worshipping at the very same sites that Muslims were worshipping, and so were the Christians. So like, as Muslims, we're not saying that, I'm just like proving that your claim that this is the promised land from God to you is wrong. But I'm not using the same argument. I'm not saying that it's the promised land for us and we'll kick you out. This is not my point. I'm just saying that your argument is wrong. And this is why like I'm tackling your argument. But the second point is, yes, we can all live in the same piece of land, live together, hand in hand, and like have our debates about what's the right religion all day long. Let's debate about the right religion all day long. But you don't have to like to oppress people in the process. You don't have to do this. You don't have to like to take off their lands. And today was like a very ancient history. Inshallah, in the next session we'll talk about the current situation and what preceded it. From 1948, we'll be talking about the atrocities that happened. And wallah, if you remember the points that I mentioned today, you'll find that they repeated the exact same things that their ancestors suffered from. They're repeating it to the Palestinians. And this is why, like we're saying, oppression is pretty much the same between all throughout history, it's oppression. And ethnically, like what Titus did was textbook ethnic cleansing, was genocide, textbook. Nebuchadnezzar, the same. So why would you adopt the same strategies against the Palestinians? And they actually, because again, like the whole idea about like these events that I'm engaged in, it started actually because of that interview that Netanyahu did with Jordan Peterson, because he was just like laying out facts. He was lying about them. It was like, it was just like lie upon lie upon lie. And Jordan Peterson was not giving him like he was not even like challenging him on any of the points. He was not saying nothing. He's like ignorant about the history and just like let that guy say whatever he wanted about history. And one of the points he said that the word Palestinian is in a context that was like derogatory, like it was named Palestine to spite the Jews. So I gave the context today. Palestine or Philistine, it's the sea people. Because the sea people migrated or invaded, or whatever you wanna think of it, they invaded that part, or anyways, like they lived there. And they were called the sea people. And because the Romans defeated the Jews at that time, wrongly so. Like I'm not saying that whatever they did was not an atrocity. It was an atrocity. But then they changed the name to Aelia Capitolina. And actually it was the Muslims who returned the name to Jerusalem, as we said. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry.
Where's the mic?
Well, I was just going to reiterate something you were saying about how, is it working?
I think it's turned on.
Okay, so I was just going to reiterate some of the stuff you were saying, which is that, what was I going to say? I just forgot what I was going to say. Never mind. Reiterating that not only was it called Philistine because of the Philistines, it was also reiterated by their neighboring countries' name for the region. It's
right.
What Netanyahu was trying to say is that I think the battery's dying. I don't really need it.
Okay.
But he was insinuating that Palestine is an invented name that was made up recently, and we have historical sources from archaeological digs from the neighboring cities and states that existed at the time of Palestine and Judea that referred to the region.
You know, actually,
the Assyrian name for Palestine was Palashtu.
Right.
And
And actually, in Egypt and hieroglyphs, we have the name Peliset, referring to that people, to that type of people. I wanted to say a point, but I forgot. Subhanallah. What were we saying? We were saying something.
It's good to note on these things on how their own neighbors refer to the region, because the whole insinuation is that Palestine's not real, the region's not called Palestine, and we have a bunch of historical context that it is referred to as Palestine.
The earliest mention of the word Palestine that I could find in my research, I'm not sure if it's even like mentioned before that, but I traced it back to Herodot. Herodot was a famous Greek historian, even long before the Romans, before Nebuchadnezzar.
Are you talking about Herodotus?
Is it the same? I don't know how to.
Same guy.
Yeah.
Don't pronounce the same way.
Okay. How do you pronounce it? Herodotus?
The Greek name is Herodotus.
Herodotus. So that guy referred to it. He's a well-known historian, a Greek historian before the Romans, before Jesus Christ, before them, and he was referring to that piece of land as Palestine. And I could give you the resource to this.
And I would say the reason they're invested in saying that this is not true is because it's part of their I'm not going to mince words, their fascistic nation, narrative building that where was I going with that? It's pretty much.
I will stress about this actually in the third week, inshallah, when we talk about. I'll stress about the fact, as I said, I sort of hinted to it when I said that it's an ethno-religion, and the thing is, I'm okay with you using Judaism. If you identify with Judaism based on race, I'm okay with it. It doesn't hurt me. I'm okay with it. But the thing is, you cannot be using religious reasons when you identify on a racial basis, because that makes you a racist. When you when you tackle it from an ethnical point of view, and you say that we are the best people because God promised us this land, this is racist.
Well, yeah, it's mythology building, which is a hallmark of fascism.
Right.
So.
Right. Thank you for the point. Okay, I'll go in first and.
I just had a comment, and
Go ahead.
thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
It was interesting to find out that Nablus was the ancient capital of modern historical Israel.
Right.
It makes sense of why the settlers and the settlements right now in present day, why they want to settle around. They're all around Nablus when you go to the West Bank. I didn't realize that Nablus had that history right there.
It's referred in the Old Testament as Shechem, and Shechem is modern day Nablus.
That was an eye opener. So it makes sense because it's a bunch of sediments all around Nablus. And when you go more north in the West Bank, there ain't as many settlements than in that region right there. Like in Jenin, for instance, there ain't as many settlements around there as it is around Nablus. But it dates back to the religious thing, is what I'm getting to. But I didn't realize that Nablus had that history.
Do you think this is the reason for that, or because of the resistance? Based on the
Reason for?
you will have a lot of settlements, in the area. No, I'm just asking. Do you think, because of this roots of history, that you will find more settlement in that area?
No, it's just the settlements. The settlement is just like a strategy.
Exactly.
It's just like a political strategy to kick people out. But if you kick them out and you do not inhabit that piece of earth, they'll come back. But if you take it and you put your own people in it, then it's yours.
This is what I'm
Well, no, but hold on. I'm not saying it's the end all be all of why the settlements are right there.
Right.
But for instance, in Al Khalil and Hebron, there is a religious region why there are settlers in Al Khalil. That's all I was just relating it to that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the end all be all why they come to Nablus, but I always wondered why
the religious groups are
in other cities that are near Nablus, like Takorum or Kakaya or Jenin. There aren't as many settlements that surround it, just like Nablus. That's all I was saying.
Thank you. And go ahead.
Nothing, I'm just saying that's not the only reason why.
Yeah,
the subject
absolutely,
matter.
absolutely. After King Solomon, actually, when he died, and I told you that the kingdom of Israel was divided into the northern part and the southern part, as I said, like 10 tribes of the children of Bani Israel, of the children of Israel, they lived in the northern kingdom. It was more important to them than the southern kingdom, which had Jerusalem, by the way. It was like the northern kingdom was more important to them than the southern kingdom. It was some sort of like they thought that the southern kingdom was like outcast. They were just like.
Well, just one last thing though,
We'll have a Q&A session after the lecture, because I'm sorry, like, because it's coming up on the second lecture time. We'll have a Q&A after 30 minutes, and we'll listen to you. Like, we'll have 45 minutes of Q&As. You can say whatever you want, inshallah. But now I would like to call on what? Oh, just okay. Ask question.
I have 11 questions. I'll wait.
Can you ask that quickest question? We can take it, like if you have lots of questions, we can.
Was my salah accepted if I forgot to say Assalamu alaikum twice at the end?
That's not related to the topic of.
answer that.
Yeah, we could talk about this, and we could ask the Sheikh, but after
To
that.
cap that,
Okay. Go ahead.
when I was talking, using the example of Hebron, like the religious importance, like Abraham's tomb, for instance, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Is it Abraham's tomb?
Abraham's tomb.
Yeah, like,
Right.
that's all I was saying. I just wanted to cap that off at the end.
All right. Thank you.
Like in Hebron.
Do we take one more question? Okay, no? Okay, Sheikh Yusuf. So we'll have the second lecture right now, inshallah, with Dr. Yusuf Abu Zakaria. Jazakallah khairan for doing this.
Inshallah, we'll take questions.
So now we can start, inshallah, the Q&A session. If you have any questions regarding, or if you have any comments really regarding the historical part or the second lecture.
Okay, not really a question, but I want to share what happened to me. I just accepted Islam 2 months ago. Praise Allah, peace be upon him. I was downtown and I was trying to cross the street downtown on 2nd and Main, and I got attacked by police officers for wearing a hijab.
You mean like verbal attack?
Yes. They were all around me. I'm yelling, "Don't touch me, I don't feel safe." This went on for a few minutes. Another cop yelling, telling the cops to arrest me. I said, "For what? Because I'm Muslim? Why? I don't feel safe." So this went on for a few minutes. I was able to cross the street. I had to FaceTime my friend, and I've never been more terrified, scared, shaking. I said, "This is not okay. This is not okay. I hate this. Is Islamic phobia. I hate this is what I have to deal with. There's days I don't feel safe. I'm praying, Allah keep me safe, let me get to work. I shouldn't be afraid to walk out wearing hijab, wondering, is someone going to see me, is someone going to attack me because of what's going on in Gaza, Palestine." So I don't understand. I understand everything going on in the war, but I don't understand this evil that you can kill women and children. How do I feel safe here in America?
So this is what we're saying, that people's words and actions have consequences. So when people spread hatred, Islamophobia, and starting calling upon hurting Muslims overseas or even here, this is injustice, this is unfairness, this is tyranny, part of tyranny. They cannot get away with it. Even if they have the power, you have police, you have numbers, you have the legislators, or even if they get a racist president to support them and so on, they're going to be judged by God. How long are they going to live? 30 years, 50, 100 years? They're all going to face the ultimate judgment by God. The test for us is to keep the faith. We practice it despite the difficulties. The harder it is to be righteous, the greater the reward it is. So we know that we are on this life to fulfill our purpose. There are prophets that have been tested. Some of them were killed, but they kept the faith. Keeping the faith is the most precious thing that a human being can have. More important than his health, more important than wealth, more than important than any power or anything on this earth. Faith is the one thing that will lead to eternal happiness. All what we're facing nowadays, this is temporary difficulties. But there will be a day that people will be rewarded for their perseverance, and tyrants and people who inflict injustice, they will be held accountable for what they do.
Yes, and I have been called horrible names. It's not okay.
That's just the sister there.
Assalamu alaikum. Sir, I just want to follow up with this case. It's very important to know our rights as Muslims or as any other religion. Especially in this country, you have the freedom to practice your religion freely, and you have not to stay silent. When we stay silent, people will attack us more. So please, we want to follow up with this case. Everyone is responsible to take this case since we hear it. We will use all methods. First, we will take it to care, which is like, it's
Islamic Relations. The Council of American Islamic.
So I know the person, I will connect you to it. We will take it to Muhammad Ali Center. When one person black died, all the Muslims were on the street to defend that person. So we'll take it to Muhammad Ali Center, and we will, as Muslim centers, we have to carry it as well. So inshallah, we will follow up with this case. We will not leave it go, inshallah.
Just to follow up on what she was saying, that even though it's been atrocities and the tragedies of the last 2 months, one silver lining is, man, the beauty in Islam. Man, I've been watching the faith, and it's just like, it just brings tears to my eyes. Especially I don't know if a lot of y'all seen the video of the guy, I think he's a Sufi, and he's got the turban on, and he's kissing his daughter, she's dead. And I was sitting there like, man, you gotta have a lot of faith, man. You gotta have a lot of faith.
I had a historical question I was going to ask for you, Brother Ahmed. From your topic earlier, you mentioned that the name Palestine, right, was taken away by the Romans and it became Ilya, right? And then when Umar al-Khattab came, he returned it back to Al-Quds. When and where did the name Palestine go and come back? Because you look at the time of Jesus, the regions referred to as Galilee or Bethlehem.
Okay, thank you for the question. Basically, as I said, the land was named many various names, but particularly it was referred to the people who lived in it. So at the time of Solomon, it was just called the Kingdom of Israel. After the death of Solomon, it was divided into the Northern Kingdom and the Southern Kingdom. And after that, as I said, generations or centuries after that, you had the Philistines, the sea people. They invaded or they migrated to the coastal part of the Holy Land, which is 5 cities: Gaza, Ashkelon, Asqalan, and Tel Safi. I think I wrote the 5 cities, the names of them in the handouts. So those people, the sea people, they were like referred to as Philistines. Philistia means the sea people. Philistines are the sea people. So again, like when the Jews like fought with the Romans, when they had like their own state, it was called Kingdom of Judah again. But then at the time of, we said Hadrian, because like they were like in constant fights and revolutions with the Romans, with Nebuchadnezzar, and after the Nebuchadnezzar with Titus, and then after Titus came Hadrian, and Hadrian was like, I'm done with this. So he killed them and he expelled them from the land, and he like enacted another strategy, which is where I'll build a new city and I will add it to the province of Syria. So it will be Syria, Palestine. And he took the name of the people were still like called Philistines or the Palestinians because they were sea people, but they were like living hand in hand with the Jews, with the descendants of Canaan. So it was just like that coastal part was named Philistine, the coastal part. So he added that because he wanted to remove the term of like Judah. So he added the term Palestine to the Syria, and he made like renamed the province Syria, Palestine. And the capital of it was not Jerusalem. He wanted also to change the name Jerusalem, and it was Ilia Capitolina. For short, they were just like commonly referred to as Ilia. And then when Umar ibn Khattab conquered Ilia and he recaptured it, the first thing he did, he renamed it as Al-Quds, Urushalim, or Jerusalem, because that's the name that we have in our like holy texts. So he returned the name to Jerusalem. But the name of Jerusalem was changed to Ilia Capitolina, but the whole province was called Syria and Palestine. Did this answer the question?
My question is more about the word Philistine. When does the region become Philistine?
Again. Yeah, times of Umar.
Yes.
So it's with this?
Yes, after Umar ibn Khattab, again, like their main focus was on Jerusalem, right? And like Ilia Capitolina, the other name was more famous than the province because they only cared about that part, because it's the Holy Land. They only cared about that part. So when Umar ibn Khattab what's the word here? No, retook the name, like he returned the name to Jerusalem. Al-Quds. Al-Quds is basically Urushalim, Jerusalem. So he renamed it, like he reclaimed the name Jerusalem, and the whole province was called from that time Palestine. Because the Jewish people still lived, but under the Muslim rule. But I mean, like we're talking about like centuries of conflict between them and the Romans, and after the Romans, when Umar ibn Khattab conquered it, it became again like Jerusalem and Palestine. But it was named Palestine even before Umar ibn Khattab. So he just like changed what's important for him, which is Jerusalem, but the name remained. Ever since Hadrian named it Philistine, it was just like Philistine and added it to the Syrian province. So it was just like Syria, Palestine. But Umar ibn Khattab cared about Jerusalem, so it was named Jerusalem, not Ilia, and the province again like stayed as Palestine. So,
hello, I'm going all the way back to the beginning of your packet. I was just a little bit confused. So you were talking about with Shem, Semites, so Hebrews and Arabs were under Shem, correct? And then you were saying that Canaanites were the original people, but then you're also saying that people in Lebanon are maybe descendants, or like that area are maybe descendants from Canaanites. So I guess I'm wondering, who are the Canaanites? Are there descendants that are they mostly Arab, or are they? Yeah. Yes.
The third son of Noah was Ham, and one of his sons was Canaan.
Yes.
So,
Well, because it's like, it says like that Arabs are under Shem, but then also some of the people, and like I know there's Mizrahim Jews, correct? I guess I'm like wondering, there's Hebrews and Arabs listed under Shem.
No, I get the question. This is an important question. Here I'm trying to oversimplify the origins, right? If you trace the origins of any, like the ancestors of any group of people, it's not just like pure one thing.
Yeah.
Like it's mixed.
Yeah.
So the first people to inhabit that piece of land were Canaan's tribe. And those were the first people. But then the Hebrews and the Arabs, they migrated and they like interacted with them.
Yeah.
They married to each other and they like so. Later on, the first people to ever like set foot on this piece of land were the Canaanites. After that, there was like mix of like a huge migration from the Hebrews, Arabs, or the invasion by the Babylonians, and so a lot happened. So when we say that the modern day Lebanese are the closest thing to, because again, like I'm not saying that the common ancestor of all Lebanese is just like one single thing, which is Canaan. No, it's not that. Like, of course, they have like Canaan origins and they have Babylonian origins, which is Semitic origins, and they also have European origins. Because like this is what happens when we talk about history, it's complex, and usually you have this mix of people. But also, the only people when they did this study, the only people that had matched that DNA of Canaans. I'm not exactly sure the number, but it was like a great match. So this is why like they said the closest people to the Canaan Canaanite origins are the Lebanese area.
Okay. And so they all kind of have mixed together, like so Canaanites. Let's see. Both Hebrew or like Jewish people and Arabs could have descended also from Canaanites, but the close or like could be mixed with somebody who
they started from Seth. This is how they started the Arabs and Jews. But again, like they entered like as I said, like I'm from Egypt, I'm Egyptian. So probably my sisters, like if we trace them back, they will be like Mizraim. So that's the son of Ham. But I'm also Arab. So I have Arab ancestors. So probably they are Semitic. So just like they interacted with each other, and this is how like you get like the modern day. Like,
yes. But the moral of the story is there's no like Canaanites who would actually be able to like have claim to the land.
Right. There are no like pure Canaanites nowadays.
Yes. Okay. That
I just like given the context. I think I confused a little bit because
thank you.
When I said like the land of Canaan, but I was just like giving a historical context to the land.
I think I would like to clarify a little bit from the Islamic standpoint when we talk about the Hebrews. So Abraham was the patriot. He has a son Isaac. His son Isaac had Jacob. Jacob is Israel. So he has the 12 children of Israel, the 12 tribes. And then when the second to youngest, Joseph, when he was taken as a boy to Egypt, then later on he became the prime minister. And when famine hit the land of what was Palestine and so on, he asked all his brothers to migrate into Egypt. So they were welcomed into Egypt because their brother is the prime minister. Then when the king changed into Pharaoh, now they enslaved them. Now later on, generations later, when Moses took the Hebrews back, there were, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of them. So instead of being 12 children with their families, talking about 50, 60 people, now you have hundreds of thousands going back to the land of the Palestine. The Holy Land, as mentioned. What we know from our tradition, the Holy Land doesn't make anybody holy. What makes somebody holy is their actions, not the land itself. The children of Israel, then after the Babylonian and Romans and so on, when they scattered all over the earth, there's rarely anybody that's nowadays truly Israeli, that is descendant of Israel. If you look at the Eastern Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews, they're not children of Israel. They're descendants of the Turkish and Mongol tribes that lived around the area there in the middle of Asia, and later on they embraced Judaism. So the majority of them were not children of Israel, and now they account to more than 1/3 of the Jews in Palestine. You have the Sephardim and the Haredim Jews, where some of them lived in Europe and some of them lived in the Arabian countries. They all have their own languages, their own tradition. The Hebrew that's spoken nowadays is not the Hebrew that was spoken at the time of Moses. There was a time nobody spoke Hebrew. Zero. They used it, some reading their text, but when the Zionist movement started, they wanted to revive, so they created a language, they created Hebrew, they mixed some of the Hebrew language. One of their scholars of the Hebrew language, he taught it to his son from his birth that he only speak Hebrew, and he was the first native Hebrew speaking person, and that was in the 19th century. So it's all made up. So the Zionists wanted to make up the story that they are descendants from Israel, Jacob, and this land was promised for them. Their language is the Holy Land. They have the claim over everybody else. Just get rid of them. We're the chosen people. They just made up that illusion, and they added more and more to it, and they're able, for different reasons, maybe we'll touch on it in the future,
to talk about that. Dr. Yusuf was saying, as I said, like if you took any ancestry test, the DNA test, they're not accurate, but there's like, let's say, 80 to 90% accurate. Each and every one of us, you'll never like find a single ancestry that you can like trace your ancestry back. Like as I said, like I'm an Arab and I'm an Egyptian. It's not going to be like purely Egyptian or purely Arab. It's mixed because we're talking about centuries apart, and people migrate all the time, and people like mix with each other all the time. Whether it's like for like peaceful reasons or just like through war, but it happens, and people mix with each other. So as I said, like I get that I was like oversimplifying history by saying like the dissidents. Like for example, I'm saying here that the European nations, they started from the dissidents of Yafith. The European nations. This doesn't. I'm not saying that like if you took a Polish person, he'll be like 100% like a descendant of Yafith. He could have origins from Ham or Sem, and of course, like this is prehistory, by the way. Like we don't have when we talk about Noah and his sons, we don't have like lots of archaeological evidence for it. It's more of like, as I said, like prehistory. It's more of like religious interpretations. So I was laying out that historical context, even from their books, from the Jewish books. So I just like wanted to touch on that. But thank you for the question. I think it was important to clear up the confusion of like if somebody thinks that you could like trace the ancestry back to like a single version. Thank you.
And that's one thing about Islam. It does not recognize races and ethnicities being of any value. لا فضل لعربي على أعجمي إلا بالتقوى. An Arab and non-Arab has no preference one another except who's more righteous. يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم. O mankind, we created you for one man, one woman, Adam and Eve. We made you into tribes and nations so you can recognize one another just by looking. If you all look the same, we cannot tell who's who. But that ethnic diversity can tell. The most noble among you is the one that has the most piety, the most righteous. So it's your faith, your words, your actions that make you noble or not your blood lineage, not your ancestry. It's who you are. And that's why you see now Muslims in Indonesia feeling anger about what happened to their brothers in Gaza. There is no blood lineage at all between the two. It's the faith. So, and you see people who are non-Muslims, when they see what happens, it's the human nature. You're seeing atrocities, you say this is wrong, this is not right. When you hear about any group of people being oppressed any part on this earth, human nature, decent human nature, you recognize, you right away would know this is right, this is wrong. So faith is about doing what is right and staying away from what is wrong. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. Is Twitter/X reliable for unbiased, uncensored news about Palestine?
It's a social network. It's not really like a credible source.
No,
what about Al Jazeera?
So, Al Jazeera is just like a biased news platform, but all news channels are biased.
Are Muslims oppressed?
What was the question?
Why Muslims are oppressed?
Oppressed. Anytime you follow the truth, people would not like it. People would like people to have...
Can you repeat that question, Sheikh?
Yeah, so he was asking why Muslims are oppressed all over the world. See them oppressed in China, in India, in Burma, in the Middle East, and everywhere. Anytime you have faith, you want to do the right thing, tyrants don't like it. Tyrants like sheep. Tyrants like people to be sheeps. You give them food, they care only about their immediate pleasures. They have no values, they have no goals. It's easy to control people like this. Once you have faith, you wouldn't accept wrong. You only do what is right.